things have swayed. The transport system has gone down.
Yeah.
But we're still, I mean, luckily we're talking to you. The telephone system, communications it remains in place.
Yes.
What else is occurring in Tokyo, the capital, as they prepare for a tsunami which could be heading its way?
I think they're just making sure that any people who could be affected are evacuated. There's a system here where there are set evacuation points that when an earthquake occurs, everybody knows to go there. That's especially true with schools and larger buildings. So I think at the moment they're just concentrating on making sure everybody's on high enough ground so that they're not affected by the tsunami.
Well, just stay with us for the moment, because these dramatic pictures we're seeing now on screen certainly look to me like an oil refinery which is on fire. I think because the pictures that we've been seeing are from the east of the country, which are most badly affected. We are hearing that JX Nippon Oil and Energy Corporation, Japan's top refiner, has halted operations of 3 refineries in Sendai, Kashima and Negishi after that strong earthquake. Electric power development after the quake, but its Yokkaichi refinery in western Japan is continuing operations. Now, you see the pictures at the moment, and that just shows the surge of water which came when that wave struck, which is still continuing to cause so much havoc in Japan. So the latest that we have is that a number of people as well have been injured after a roof caved in a Tokyo graduation ceremony. That comes from the fire department. Many were injured in northern Japan following Friday's earthquake, and Narita Airport is in Tokyo. And I'm just understanding now that the first death has been reported. Not quite sure where at the moment, but we'll get more information on that. But you just see the pictures and the force of the water that is just taking everything in its path, whether it was lorries, trucks, or ships even, and getting very close to actual roads as well. You can just see what's happening and the power of this and how it really could cause an awful lot of destruction and Well, I'm sorry for that small break in our transmission caused by power problems here at the BBC. You're watching a BBC News special with Owen Thomas and Rachel Schofield. A massive 8.8 magnitude quake has hit the northeast coast of Japan, shaking buildings in the capital, Tokyo, causing many injuries, at least one fire, and triggering a 4-metre tsunami. That is the scene, I think, from the east of the country, where you can just see the force of the water that swept on shore. And when we talk about the force of the water, it was an incredible sight. This on the east of the country, north of Tokyo. Lorries and boats were absolutely pushed aside by the sheer force of this water.
Clearly, it is early stages and very much a scramble to get an idea of how extensive that damage is. 8 military planes scrambled to survey the damage, and the Prime Minister has ordered the military to do their utmost to act in response to the quake. The Cabinet is meeting, the government obviously concerned about their response. But just to give you a little sense of some of the damage that's been assessed at the moment, several people are known to have been buried in a landslide. Power, as you would expect, cut to millions of homes, around 4 million homes they estimate in and around Tokyo. Many sections of expressway serving northern Japan have been damaged. There is a major fire at the Chiba refinery near Tokyo, and the bullet trains, those famous trains to the north of the country, have been stopped. So the impact starting to be felt, and the sense that this is really very serious indeed.
A 10-metre tsunami hit the port in Sendai in northern Japan after that quake, and the US Geological Survey upgraded the magnitude of the quake to 8.9. They say this was a super quake, and one of the pictures you just saw, some woman trying to flag, presumably for help, from the upstairs window. We also know, as you were saying, that military boats are also going to the area just to see how big this is. We're getting a report that one person has died, but when you see the force of the water and just what's happening on Japan's eastern side, you have to say one person dead, that is likely to rise.
Now, Japan, not the only focus of concern. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii saying that warning is in place not just for Japan, but also for Russia, Marcus Island and the Northern Marianas. And a tsunami watch, which of course slightly different, has been issued for Guam, Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia and the US state of Hawaii. So this is a tsunami which is causing concern to other countries in the area as well, not just Japan. But just to remind you of the epicenter of the quake that has caused the problem, that striking at a depth of 6 miles, 10 kilometres, about 80 miles off the eastern coast of Japan. The area in question around 240 miles northeast of the Japanese capital, Tokyo.
Well, at least one person was killed in Fukushima Prefecture, north of Tokyo, where 4 million homes are now without power. Many injuries and fires have been caused as that wall of water really crashed into the coast. It's prompted warnings to people to move to higher ground. There were several strong aftershocks in the capital, Tokyo. Buildings shook violently. TV pictures showed a vast wall of water carrying the debris and even fires across a large swathe of coastal farmland near the city of Sendai, which has a population of some 1 million people. The public broadcaster NHK showed flames and black smoke billowing from a building in Odaiba, which is a Tokyo suburb. The bullet trains to the north of the country have been halted. Black smoke was also seen pouring out of an industrial area in Yokohama's Isogo area. We saw boats, cars, trucks floating in the water after that small tsunami hit the town of Kamaichi in northern Japan. An overpass appeared to have collapsed into the water, and one news agency is now reporting that there are reports of fires in Sendai where waves carried cars across the runway at the airport. And it's Sorry, I've got some more information coming into us. The earthquake felt strongly in Japanese capital, Tokyo, where people have been rushing out onto the streets.
Yes, as we've been saying, fires breaking out in several parts of the city. Television pictures showing a major fire at an oil refinery outside Tokyo. As I was saying a little earlier, that high-speed bullet train in Japan, the service has been stopped across the country. Airports, which may be of interest to you, Narita Airport near Tokyo and Sendai Airport, both closed. And latest TV pictures from Sendai City showing people standing on the top of multi-storey buildings with floodwaters covering the streets below them. So that gives you an idea of the picture as it stands in Japan itself. Meanwhile, other areas thought to be at risk from that tsunami include the west coast of the United States, the US placing the West Coast and Hawaii on tsunami watch. So clearly more of a question of monitoring the situation. But the warning centre on the West Coast and Alaska.
The cars overturned and washed around, thrown around as the waters have moved across through fields into villages. We've seen some really frantic pictures of vehicles. Exactly what the scale of the tsunami is, but the pictures we've seen for ourselves show that this is very much a tsunami happening as we watch. We've seen an oil refinery up in flames. As the tidal waters have swept through, they've been nonetheless ablaze themselves. I was just saying a moment or two ago, villages have been washed away effectively by these incoming tides, and people have been desperately clambering into their vans, their cars, minibuses, trying to get out ahead of the waters, which are moving at quite a rate.
Yes, just to give you a sense, you can see inside that office building a sense of people realising what is happening. And just to give you a little insight, we're getting some eyewitness quotes in from people, passengers on one of the subway lines in Tokyo, screaming and grabbing other passengers' hand, and a Reuters reporter saying the shaking was so bad that it was hard to stand. And indeed, one Reuters correspondent who's worked in Japan for many years said the building shook for what seemed a long time, and many people in the newsroom grabbed their helmets and some got under their desks. It was probably, and this is significant, it was probably, says Linda Sieg from Reuters, the worst I have felt since I came to Japan more than 20 years ago. Of course, this area, no stranger to earthquakes, but this, it seems, with a magnitude of 8.9, really quite a considerable earthquake. Let's bring in our colleague Owen Thomas.
Yes,
now.
a number of people have been contacting us through the BBC website. Tom David in Tokyo says, I live in central Tokyo near the highly populated districts. The initial earthquake increased in intensity, forcing myself and others to leave the building and look about overheard. Let me just, though, go back to these pictures and see whether you can listen to what's going on here.
Refinery in Chiba Prefecture, where firefighters were still having trouble in being able to contain the inferno. And more than 4 million buildings in Tokyo and surrounding areas lost power soon after the quake. There has also been massive power failure in areas hit hard by the quake in the northeastern part of the country. 5 nuclear power plants in the northern area have been shut down. Airports in Narita and Miyagi Prefecture are closed. 3 of the runways in Haneda Airport have been reopened, obviously for planes that have been circling around the top of the Tokyo city for them being able to land. You're seeing some fires in Fukushima Prefecture. Our planes covering fires breaking out in Fukushima Prefecture, northern Japan, where an earthquake, not only an earthquake, but a tsunami has hit the area. Looks like fire completely out of control in Fukushima Prefecture. Firefighters obviously having a difficult time in this kind of situation to be able to get to this, to turn out the fire. Tsunami hitting Fukushima Prefecture, fire as a result of the earthquake, out of control without the fire department being able to contain that fire, obviously due to the situation where roads will not be accessible when a large part of that city is now underwater. Around 2:45 p.m. local time, or 1500 military time, its intensity is reported to be 7 on the Japanese scale of 0 to 7. That's one of the largest, and the size, according to the Japanese in the Japanese seismic scale, the same as the Great Hanshin earthquake. Magnitude-wise, it is bigger at 8.4. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has...
We're listening to commentary coming from NHK Radio in Japan. These are their offices, in fact, that we're watching. These are the very moments that the earthquake struck, 2:46 p.m., followed, as we now know, by tsunami with waves of up to 10 meters high sweeping in from the west into the eastern coast of Japan. We've heard of injuries certainly further north, and there are reports just coming in of 1 dead in Sendai. At the moment, that's as far as the casualties go. I have to say, given what we have seen in terms of the force of the waters sweeping inland, and here's just an example of it for you, it would be astonishing if that casualty list didn't grow considerably. It's been an extraordinary scene, the pictures the like of which we have possibly never seen before. And Owen, I think you've got some more detail on that.
Well, a tsunami watch has been issued for Guam, Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia and the US state of Hawaii. I think we can now go to Seoul.
Yeah, Nick Ravenscroft is our correspondent there. Nick, what can you tell us from there?
People had a hard time standing up. This is the situation here in Tokyo. According to the Transport Ministry, Tokyo's Haneda International Airport has reopened all of its 4 runways at 3:56 p.m. Japan time. The airport has confirmed the safety of all runways. However, airports in Narita and Miyagi Prefecture are still closed so far. We'll give you posted as soon as we get more information. The powerful earthquake has stopped Shinkansen bullet trains across the country and trains around the Tokyo area. East Japan Railway says that all Tohoku Joetsu and Nagano Shinkansen lines have stopped. On the major Tokaido line, all trains between Tokyo and Shin Osaka stations were stopped for security checks. Central Japan Railway Company later said part of the Tokaido line resumed operations. The Tokyo Metro system also says all of its lines have been stopped and officials are checking for safety. A number of people are having serious trouble communicating with their families, obviously, and members, their cell phones in the wake of the quake. We're going back to live coverage of Fukushima Prefecture, where tsunami has hit the area, engulfed some of the prefecture. Earlier we were seeing smoke billowing out of buildings. A major earthquake hitting Japan Friday afternoon. Japan's meteorological agency saying the quake measured magnitude 8.4. The agency has issued a tsunami warning for Japan's Pacific coast in northeastern Japan. Iwate Prefecture. Tsunami waves of over 4 meters were observed soon after the quake. The agency is warning that the tsunami could reach between 6 and 10 meters. Meteorological agency says a 7.3 meter tsunami wave was hit right here, as you see, in Fukushima Prefecture in northeastern Japan. Our camera crew on our helicopter is covering that situation right now. Over in Iwate Prefecture, a tsunami of 4.1 meters struck land. The prefecture of Ibaraki, Miyagi, and Hokkaido. Several fires have broken out.
So more commentary coming there from NHK. This is the oil refinery, as we were saying, just on the edge of Tokyo. Nick Ravenscroft is our correspondent in Seoul, who's been watching from not so very afar, Nick, it's worth pointing out. I mean, where your coast looks out across Japan, it's not so very far away. And as we get US Tsunami Monitoring Center warnings now spreading right across the Pacific coast, including Australia, even South America, I wonder what people are making of it in South Korea, Nick, and whether they've had any sensation of these quakes that have been taking place.
Pictures of what's happening in Japan to realise that this is a huge tsunami and it is heading this way. this area that is meant to be in the line of fire, as you will, in Indonesia, up in the north and in Sulawesi and in Papua, is an area which doesn't actually have the tsunami warning systems that are in place in other parts of Indonesia as a result of the Aceh tsunami. But they do have the advantage here this time of time. They've had several hours to tell people what's going on, to advise people what to do, and they've advised people to be prepared, and now they seem to be advising people to actually leave the area.
Right, well, I suppose the spotlight is very much on the authorities and their ability to deal with an emergency situation, and at least they have had time this time, Kate, to see what's happening further north and to confront it.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think in Indonesia, they're obviously doing all they can. In the Philippines as well, they're doing very similar. They've been told that the waves could hit large areas of the Philippines about now, actually. Again, 1 meter, 2 meters high. And there are some islands in Micronesia which have been warned that basically the tsunami, even though the waves aren't going to be that high, could actually be taller than the entire island. So really we're talking many different areas facing many different levels of risk, and it's something that really it should have hit the Philippines anytime soon, in Indonesia in about an hour, and these small islands all over the place in the next hour or so. So this is something that all these governments are on really high alert for.
Kate, thank you very much indeed. Kate McGowan, who's in Jakarta.
Well, extraordinary pictures continuing to come into us. Let's just show you the latest that from a supermarket in Tokyo as the quake strikes. Well, the crashing and bashing and smashing of glass speaks for itself, and you almost wonder why the staff are even trying to hold things on those shelves, because everything has a mind of its own with that kind of vibration, and the clear up there is likely to be quite extensive. I should stress, of course, that is the impact in Tokyo, and that some 240 miles from the epicenter of the quake, so it gives you a sense of how it spreads.
Extraordinary, isn't it, that the initial instinct is not to run for cover, but to try and look after the stores and the shelves. Those pictures just coming in, very dramatic they are too. Well, a short while ago I was speaking to a journalist in Tokyo, that's Eric Du of the Japan Times, and he told us about the moment the earthquake struck. I think we can hear from Eric Du now.
I was walking into the office from the balcony from a phone call, and somebody said quake, which is a common thing when they occur here, and then it really kicked in big time. And we didn't wait around too long before we all headed for the stairs and out of the building.
Right. How much of an impact has there been in Tokyo? We understand a lot of buildings have lost power.
It's not clear yet exactly the extent of damage in the immediate metropolitan area, other than, as you mentioned, there is a gas storage facility. I don't believe it's a refinery, but that has a fire that's at this point out of control. There's a couple of other fires that have been on the television that are in the